Welcome once again. We are the Vinyl Community Guncles, or would it be better to call us just the Vinyl Guncles? It takes up less space in the title description. We're the Vinyl Guncles.
Jesus.
And we've got a top five again, this
Being
time
attacked.
doing. Okay, we're going back to the Vinyl
You were
Community Guncles
married
according to
once
the cat.
before, and you're
Jesus,
still
I just
wrestling
got-
with the pussy.
Ugh. Okay.
Pussy in your crotch, or
I'm ready.
Oh my
Yeah, I
goodness.
just got nailed in the yeah.
Oh
it's
no.
been a
I
long
got
time.
I'm gonna go to the emergency room.
I get that cat scratch fever. Ugh.
Should we just start over again?
No. we
Keep
were
that.
talking.
We are
Yeah.
doing a top five of Talking Heads and their discography, which they only have 8 albums. So it's not like this was really difficult for me to do. But we're going to do our top 5 albums, and this is a new segment that we're doing every other time. Of course, we're still doing the year-end reviews as well. First up is. Well, first of all, I'm Robert Fitton, along with Richard from Calvin Wazoo, Mike from Hubtunes, and ladies and gentlemen, also, I don't have a joke this time, Craig from Craig's Vinyl Plethora. Keep forgetting to do that.
Oh, you're okay.
Richard is first.
I really enjoyed getting ready for this and listening to all the albums, even the ones. I mean, I had my list sort of figured out. Oh yeah, this is what my list is going to be. But then as I started listening, things started moving around. And I realized too that there's albums that are not as good as others, but every album has good songs on it.
Yeah.
So it was fun doing this. Coming in at number 5 for me though is this one, the 1978 release, More Songs About Buildings and Food, and which is I believe it's their second one. This is to me a 4 Rainbow album. It starts off really strong with "Thank You for Sending Me an Angel." I just love that opening. I just love the drumming with that, and I also like the way the song "With Our Love." There has this section where it kind of goes up and goes down, it goes up and it goes down. Really nice with the guitar picking throughout this album as well. I really like what they're doing because it's almost like the whole style, the Talking Heads style of syncopation with the guitar picking. One of the weaknesses could be the song, to me, Warning Sign, because I kind of feel like the intro is just too long. Like maybe they could just launch into the song and even skip that with that intro. The girls want to be with the girls. The funny line in there. What does that mean? It keeps coming up in there. And there was, I guess, a lot of talk about, is he singing about lesbians or what? And so it's just a pretty funny song the way he goes in there. And I like another clever song to me is "Found a Job," because it's clever to me because of the way he's describing how people are just turning off the TV, how you can turn off the TV and then create your own life, create a life that you can live instead of, watching the TV, and go out and do something. And life is so much more enjoyable. There's just a lot of really good songs on here. "Take Me to the River" is a cover, one that's on here. I like the live version better, but it's a good song still. The one song though that kind of is a bit reductive to me is the song "The Big Country," which is the closing song. Reminds me way too much of Rolling Stones' Jigsaw Puzzle from Beggar's Banquet. It just, to me, it seemed, I don't know, like it was phoned in. So it just doesn't seem that strong of a song, which is why this is at number 5. Yeah, good record. I've been listening to Talking Heads ever since the first single, "Psycho Killer," came out. And the band has been some band that's infatuated me, and I've got a lot of enjoyment listening to them over the years and the different kind of periods, because there are different periods with their music. Not quite as stark as other bands, but yeah, they have some. They have their moments. So that's my number 5.
I struggled with number 5 because I was going to put that at number 5. I struggled with that album because it's got some of my favorite Talking Head songs. It's also got some of my. It's very inconsistent for me. There's something about it, and I left it off of my top 5. This is one of my. This band is probably my top 5 or 6 bands. One of my favorite bands of all time. Also, the answer to the question, what band did you never see live that you would love to see get back together? I never saw the Talking Heads live.
Yeah.
I've seen David Byrne like 3 or 4 times. I saw solo acts, and stuff, but never ever saw the Talking Heads. And they'll probably never get back together. This is one band like the Smiths, obviously, will never get back together. Honorable mention. If you guys ever see this is a live recording in Chicago from '78. I think it's the tour for the second album. And this is really good. It's a radio broadcast. Excellent. And you can pick it up for like $20. It's a double disc. Really, really good. But my number 5 is, I'm going with, this is, and I'm putting this on here because it is the soundtrack to Stop Making Sense. This is my number 5. This is, people consider this a comeback. People consider this, but they never went away for me. I mean, they were always there. And this album, I mean, really, this kind of reminds me of like when remember when 10,000 Maniacs did that Unplugged thing, and all of a sudden everyone knew 10,000 Maniacs because of that one album that they did, like on MTV. This is kind of the same thing. This came out. The movie is spectacular. I just watched it actually about a few months ago. Really, really good soundtrack. I absolutely love it. And the live versions on here, I don't think there's a live version on here that doesn't blow away the studio version. I think they're all absolutely fantastic. So that's my number 5. Stop Making Sense. Again, this is the soundtrack.
I remember when that film came out. It was just mind blowing. It was just.
Yeah. I saw it in the theater. And it was just great, and all the extra musicians, the talent that they brought in, Bernie Worrell, and I think Adrian Belew was with them too. There was so many people came in on that. Really, really
reissued.
They're getting ready to do an expanded box set, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing happened to Bob Seger and Cheap Trick. The live album was what really blew them up.
Yeah.
I really went all over the place back and forth with this. It was really difficult to... if it was a top 6, it would have been a lot easier. But to knock off one of 2 was really not easy. And that's why I listened to each of these like 3 times. I just kept listening. And what I basically discovered is that for me, Talking Heads, it really is more of a singles band. And I think that's why a lot of people like the Stop Making Sense album, is because it's got all the hits on it. I'm not really a big fan, with the exception of a couple of albums, of a lot of the non-singles songs. And so what I ended up doing was kind of judging the albums on the album tracks and how consistent they are, rather than the singles, because every album has an incredible single on it, a really good single, and then album tracks. So I went with more of what was in between the singles, because I just kept going round and round and round and round and round. And so I just want to mention this. It's not in my top 5, but this is one of the ones that would have been that would have tied basically with number 5. And Mike, I know, is not going to put this in his top 5 because he doesn't like it at all. We've talked about this before, and wow, Mike was right. When I talked about how much I like this album.
Wait, what?
I must have been. This is like the 3rd time I've said that. Mike's right. I was thinking of the singles, which are great. And She Was, Stay Up Late, The Lady Don't Mind, and Road to Nowhere. But the rest of the album for me did not hold up at all. And there's 2 awful long songs, and they're terrible, and they're back to back. Whatever the
singles are all that good.
I like the fun of that, but yeah, I'm yeah, that wasn't that good of an experience. So at number
Wow,
5,
you all going to be surprised.
I thought that was
and
going to be your number one. To be honest.
no, and it's interesting because my own collection of Talking Heads is kind of ridiculous. I only have one record from them. It's my least favorite Talking Heads album. The rest are all on CDs.
I know which one.
Yeah, I just showed it. It's this one.
Oh no.
My CDs, the rest I have on CD except for 2, and those 2 are in my top 5. So yeah, and at number 5, I don't have their debut, Talking Heads '77. Really big fan of Psycho Killer. Really big fan of Love Is To, Building on Fire, and Mike's is upside down. Yeah, every time I've seen that, it's been like $40 or something, and I'm just still in my old vinyl collecting days of the '90s when, to me, that's a $5 record. It's not. It's a $40 album, and it's a common Warner Brothers. I just can't do it, and so yeah. But the album itself, it's very thin sounding to me. It's very sparse. It's a little too minimalist, and it's a lot of David Byrne and a little bit else. You know, and when you listen to David Byrne, he is the Talking Heads consistency. The music keeps changing with the albums, but he's the one consistent. That quirky vocal of his that's immediately recognizable and distinguishable.
I love that quirky vocal.
And it's just a lot of him and a lot of music way back here that just is like drums and plucky, like Richard was saying, like plucky guitar. And it's a little bit too quirky in places. Some of the singles, Love, Comes to Town is okay. It's kind of a nice starter. It's not great or anything. Didn't blow me away. But yeah, it's all, like I said, it's all about the 2 singles. The Love Is to Building on Fire and Psycho Killer on that album. So number 5 is Talking Heads '77.
My turn. Okay, so at number 5, and I should just start. I've heard 3 of the 8 albums previously, so of course all the singles. I knew all the singles, like I think every one of us. But so I was surprised by how this ranked for me. But at number 5, I chose True Stories from 1986. That has a Love for Sale, Hey Now, which is really great. I love the song People Like Us. And then Radiohead, which is where Radiohead got their name. So yep. Those are the songs I really liked. I just liked the overall sound of this album, and I just it flowed for me. And I enjoyed it more than I did a few of the others. So
I enjoyed it more than I remembered.
Yeah.
I like Puzzle and Evidence. I like that song on there, and Hey Now. Those are good songs on that. Those are good tracks.
Yeah.
It's their weakest album in my opinion, but yeah, it's overall got good tracks.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. So that was
okay. Yeah. Oh, Richard! Oh my God, I almost skipped Richard.
Yeah, don't skip Richard. Yeah.
So number 4, I was talking about how the first time I heard them, because number 4 is their debut, Talking Heads '77, and I mean I can still remember the day. It was. I'm a sophomore in college, and I'm out at the WMU Kite Festival. The college radio station was having this kite festival. It was out in a farmer's field. It was muddy, and clouds of smoke everywhere and beer everywhere. And the college radio station, because it was only I think it was like an 80-watt station, or might have even been less than that. I mean, it could barely broadcast off campus, and this was way out in a rural area. So they brought a truck out there so that they could broadcast and play there. And I remember hearing Psycho Killer, and I was like, what the hell is this? It was like nothing, absolutely nothing that I'd ever heard up until that moment. Just totally blew me away. The single, and I had to figure out, when was I listening to this? So it would have been the spring in 1978, because the single wasn't released until December of '77. The album was in September of '77. But I remember the Kite Festival was this spring event, so that would have been my sophomore year. So it for a long time was like my favorite. I was one of my favorite albums. But this whole process of us listening to the records really, I started having a different feelings about the different records. I love David Byrne's frenetic vocals. His verge of a nervous breakdown. He's like a woman on the verge, whenever he's singing through, in the songs. And reading up, he was, even though this was their debut album, they'd been playing together and touring a lot by the time they got this record going. And Byrne was feeling it much more in the next couple of albums. But anyway, I love the song "Uh-Oh, Love Comes to Town" because of that cool, funky beat with the opening. And "Tentative Decision" seems kind of funny in a way because it seems to be rooted in sexism about boys mansplaining to women, and saying it's a hard logic to follow, telling the girls that it's too difficult for them to understand. Happy Day is kind of less frenetic. It seems like Byrne's mania is subdued a little bit, so the vocals aren't quite as stretched, I guess is a way to say it. I love the song "Who Is It?" because it's a song about being on the fringe of society. And the line in the song, "No compassion," they say, "Compassion is a virtue, but I don't have the time." It's because, people are always talking about their problems. They're talking about their problems, but they never do anything about it. So I've got no more time to be listening to you talk about your problems. Do something about it or shut the hell up. I love that song. The book I read is okay, but it's which one is it? Don't Worry About the Government and First Week, Last Week. These are, to me, they're almost extensions of Psycho Killer in a way. And especially like Don't Worry About the Government. It's like the whole point of capitalism is keep us comfortable just enough so that we don't revolt. Lessons learned from the French Revolution. But yeah, the First Week, Last Week, it's almost like a more sedated period of the Psycho Killer. And then Psycho Killer comes up, where the Psycho Killer is losing it. He's being taken over by his psychosis. Apparently, the band was confused over how popular the song was. And to them, it was a kind of a joke song that they did, but it became like a signature song for the band. And I love the closer too, "Pulled Up." You pulled me up, you pulled me up, 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 up. I mean, I like the optimism and the buoyancy, of the song, because a lot of David Byrne's songs are pretty dark and probably reflective of his own personal demons that he was dealing with, especially with the negative experiences that he had in art school and dealing with that whole institution. So yeah, Talking Heads 77. I know a lot of people that I know I've talked to. They say it's their favorite album. It's their number one album.
I know a
was
lot
for
of
me
people.
for a long time, but it's number 4. So give it about maybe 4.5 rainbows.
So my number 4 would probably be Talking Heads 77, the debut. This is on green vinyl. You can find these reissues. They reissued the entire catalog about 3 or 4 years ago, and they're still around. I see them in stores. You should be able to find one.
How does it sound, though? That's always the question.
It sounds great.
I
Yeah,
think mine sounds fine.
Yeah, it sounds great. Yeah,
I got
have
mine
no
for
issue.
like $18. It's just black.
I think it sounds really good. Psycho Killer is my favorite Talking Head song. It's
pretty good.
It's spectacular. It's spectacular. It's just one of the greatest songs ever recorded. I absolutely love the groove and the sound, and he's so great on vocals. And I mean, I've heard hundreds of bands, from bar bands to arena bands. I mean, we've heard bands cover this song all the time, and it always gets the crowd jumping, no matter how bad or big or small or
Yeah.
great the band is. Every time a band covers Psycho Killer, the crowd goes nuts. There's something about it, just that funky. Oh, it's just great. I absolutely love it. It is my favorite Talking Head song. This is not. There's a couple of misses on here for me. Oh, Love Comes to Town is great. I'm not going to go through it because Richard just went through all of it, but it's a solid record. I really like it. A great debut. Probably one of the best debuts of all time. It's really, really good. So, Talking Heads, 77 is my number 6.
Number 6.
It's number
Are we
6.
going backwards?
No.
Four.
Yeah, I'm going backwards. It's number 4.
Well, we don't even have a number 6.
My number 4 is
If we had one, it would be
True Stories from the Talking Heads from 1986. It's, of course, the soundtrack to their movie, or David Byrne's movie. And the movie is not great. I don't know a lot of people who like that. It was kind of critically panned. The audiences didn't like it. But the soundtrack, I think, stands on its own. And it really does a better job of bringing out the quirky different characters and their motivations and their feelings and whatever than the actual movie does. The movie was just kind of, well, anyway, the soundtrack has a nice full sound. I think it's more of a rock album than any of the other Talking Heads album, especially starting off with the song Love for Sale, which I still love that song. A weird remix of that goes around, though, on some of their compilations. I definitely prefer the mix that's on here. I don't know if that's the single version or what, but Love for Sale and Wild Wild Life I've always liked. Its quirkiness or whatever, but it does it in more of a, like I said, a fuller pop kind of arena with that song. Like Craig was saying, the song Radiohead is great, where the band Radiohead got their name. There's a little bit of Mexicana on here. Kind of sounds like Los Lobos on some of the songs, or the Texas Tornadoes on a few of the songs on here. So it's got kind of a Spanish, well, not really, more of a Mexican, I guess, feel to it. Some of the instruments it's played in like I said, like Los Lobos and things like that, even though they're not from Mexico. But yeah, so it has a lot of their albums have sounds from other parts of the world, and this one obviously more of a south of the border kind of feeling. Puzzle and Evidence is pretty cool. People Like Us is I think kind of a dig at certain people in parts of the country, like where Craig and I live, kind of, especially. We probably run into those type of people all the time. Not so much in major cities like Chicago. But
you'd be surprised.
Well, yes, St. Louis has that too, but it's more of the outskirts, not necessarily in the big city. But City of Dreams is a really sad ending, but it really kind of makes you think. But this was panned when it first came out. It gets dismissed. I'm glad to see that Craig had this on his list, and it's number 4 for me.
I definitely enjoyed it more than I remember when it came out.
Same here. I mean, when I was listening to it, there are a lot of really good songs in there. I was just able to find others better, but it's like I said at the beginning, I would be a completist. That and Naked are the only 2 records I don't have by them, and I want to bring them into my collection.
Well, speaking of, so I was surprised that because everybody does say it's their worst, and I know I'd heard it years ago. I actually used to have it on vinyl when I was in high school, but I didn't play it a lot because the cover just creeps me out. So Naked from '88, their last album. I have a fear of monkeys and gorillas, and I don't like them. So, so if I got it again, I would have to do something with the cover. I wouldn't be able to look at it. Not destroy it, but it would have to probably have something in front of it. One of my biggest fears in life. I can't explain it. But I found myself really enjoying it. Huh?
There's no need to explain it.
Yeah, well, it's more gorillas, but it's anything in that form. But gorillas are no gorilla lalas, thank you. But I just found myself really enjoying it, and a lot more than I thought I was going to, and it surpassed a couple of the others for me. So Mr. Jones is a catchy song. I really liked Big Daddy. Bill is actually not on the vinyl version was only on the cassette and CD. And then Cool Water. I really like that. Of course, Nothing But Flowers. That's a fantastic song. So, yeah, like I said, I found myself enjoying it more than I thought I was going to.
It's the one Talking Heads album I don't own. I think I had it
saw
on
a copy of it
I had it on
recently.
cassette, probably in high school.
I saw an OG copy of it, and they wanted way too much money for it. I mean, even in Discogs, the highest amount was less than what this store. They wanted I think they wanted like $80 for it.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? I mean,
For their worst album?
really? I mean, well, to me, it's not. I mean, I like it better than True Stories. I think it's. I just like that side of David Byrne a little better. But I like the songs "Blind" and "Totally Nude" and "Ruby Dear."
Yeah, "Totally Nude's good.
Those are all good songs.
Oh, yeah.
Well, then, you guys are maybe going to be shocked or dismayed or like, Richard, what the hell are you thinking? Because for my number three,
are you showing a Johnny Flynn record?
It's this album. This album is a party from start to finish. This album is a party. I mean,
maybe it's a party we don't want to attend.
Yeah, I'm not invited to that.
We do not want to go to that party.
I'm going to ghost that party on song 6.
Oh, no, the lady don't mind.
Yeah, the singles.
Well, all the songs. I like all the songs. Stay Up Late is probably my favorite song on there. That is, I love the line, sister, sister, please let me hold him. I want to make him stay up all night. Yeah, we do. Then the line that goes in, I know you're gonna leave me. I mean, that's just the way
Richard's doing a lot of singing.
He is so excited.
Television Man, Road to Nowhere.
Singles.
Yes, this is a party. This album is a party. To me, you put this on and you got a party going.
For me, that album suffers from way overexposure. Four singles, remember?
But those are the things those singles are great. The two I was talking about earlier are "Walk It Down" has one of the worst choruses I've ever. Walk it down, and the Television Man.
Talk it down.
Yeah, that's it. Walk it down, talk it down. Blah, blah, blah. I cannot stand that, especially with the Talking Heads doing it. And then Television Man is just.
We could dance to every song on that record.
Those 4 singles were played on MTV. There was a video for every one of them. They were over and over, and on the radio.
I don't think the Lady You Don't Mind was played a lot, was it?
I seem to remember it.
Well, I was living in
by the time that came out, I was probably like.
And that "Creatures of Love" song is just cringe as hell, as the young people would say. This is what I was talking about earlier with I chose to rank these because this is really hard to do this because it was such great songs like you're talking about, like the singles, but I had to go with the consistency of the albums to do my ranking. And this one was definitely, the highs on here are higher than some albums, but the lows on here are lower than a lot of albums. There's nothing as bad as "Creatures of Love" and "Television Man" and that "Walk It Down" on other albums. But there's nothing better than "Road to Nowhere" and "Stay Up Late" and She Was. So it's a really unbalanced kind of album for me. Like I said, I'm really trying to defend it because it's I wanted to put this in the top 5 and it just couldn't do it.
Wouldn't fit.
Guess I could have tied it, but that's almost cheating when there's only 8.
Well, every man must know his limitations.
Yes. To quote Megadeth.
Well, my number 3.
Oh, that's Clint Eastwood.
Or Megadeth.
My number 3 is "Speaking in Tongues." Absolute masterpiece. This is just perfect record from start to finish. It could easily be number 1. "Burning Down the House," "Make 'em Flippy Flop," "Girlfriend is Better," "Slippery People," "I Get Wild." I mean, that's side one.
I get wild.
That's great. That's
Wild
unbelievable. That
enough.
side. And then
I
side
just
two, you
can't
get
let
Swamp.
go.
Opens with Swamp. And then Moon Rocks, Pile Up the Roots, and This Must Be the Place. I mean, this is a perfect record. I mean, if we were to do a review of this would get 5 rainbows in my opinion. Absolutely great. Again, Bernie Worrell, he sits in on here on the synth, and really, really good. I just great record. This is my high school copy too.
My number 3 is the same one, Speaking in Tongues, but I am nowhere near as excited about it as Mike is. Again, singles. And Burning Down the House was the first Talking Heads song I ever heard. I fell in love with it immediately. I love it on the 400th listen as I did on the first. Love the video. That's how I saw it, with the video and all that. But Making Flippy Floppy, no. I Get Wild, Wild Gravity, hell no. Swamp, not really.
Swamp. So good.
Pull Up the Roots, no. But I do love This was almost my number 4, but I could not put True Stories at number 3 because I knew that I would never hear the end of that, so I had to make that number 4. But really, True Stories is
You're never going to hear
3.
the end of this.
But yeah, Speaking in Tongues is number 3. This Must Be the Place and Burning Down the House are the 2 highlights, and they bookend the album. Everything in the middle, I could kind of take or leave. It really kind of, in their chronology, this is where they go dance. Like in 1983, David Bowie came out with Let's Dance, kind of reinvented himself again with just basic dance. This is basic dance music, a lot of it. 4/4, disco type stuff. And it really kind of sounds dated. Without David Byrne on the vocals, this would be a very dated kind of album for that time. This is coming off the Tom Tom Club, though. And you can definitely tell that they've got those kind of, we're going to dance now. And the funkiness on their earlier albums has kind of been replaced by a really basic dance track type sound. And it's not...
Wow. I think
what year is it? What year is this?
It's 83. It's the same year as David Bowie's Let's Dance. That's why I said this could be called Let's Dance from Talking Heads.
But it's much better than Let's Dance.
Oh no, Let's Dance is a much better album.
That's a piece of shit.
Oh my God, there's no way Let's Dance is a piece of shit.
You're both wrong.
It's got one good song on it.
Oh wow, I'm not into China Girl, but no, Let's Dance is pretty cool. Modern Love rules. Putting Out Fire doesn't really count because it was out before. It's kind of like Under Pressure.
But it's the best song on there.
It gets put on later. But Pull Up the Roots literally has a part in it that sounds like Funky Town from Lip Sync. I mean, this is like late 70s Grace Jones European disco coming out in 1983, and the Talking Heads were always so ahead of the movement. And here they're kind of a little bit behind the times. So this probably really is my number 4, but it has Burning Down the House on it. So that's why it's number 3. But yeah, I thought this would be higher. But again, just like Richard said, I listened to these over and over again. They kept moving around, and I was kind of surprised at how it turned out. But yeah, that's my number 3.
Bring us back to safety, Craig.
Oh, it's kind of, I want to mention too, it's kind of annoying because you don't know what the definitive version is, because the album has shorter versions of 4 songs than the cassette did.
It does.
And then later the CD, there's 2 different versions. The early CDs had the album versions, and the later CDs, like the one I have the cassette versions. Are the album versions edited, or are the cassette versions extended? Which is the official version?
The cassette versions were extended because back in high school I had an album for the house and I had a cassette for the car. Yeah, and they were all longer, and it even said extended mixes or extended.
Okay, because it doesn't sound like they're looped or whatever. It sounds like they're literally just been edited for the album, which this is why I don't have the vinyl. I don't care about it because I grew up with the cassette and then got the CD, and I don't even know those shorter versions. Yeah. Anyway, that's all.
Craig.
Number 3 is 77, the debut that I thought was my favorite album, but it's not. I love Uh-Oh Comes to Town. That song comes on and I'm a happy boy. I'm dancing.
It's a great song.
And that's what I want to do when I listen to this dance records. I want to dance when I'm listening to the Talking Heads.
Yeah, but there's different types of dancing.
Well, I know, but
Have you ever seen Craig dance?
I've seen me dance. You guys see me dance all the time.
I dance.
See you shimmy.
I'm not doing
I
a
haven't seen you dance.
striptease or
I
anything.
was just saying the
but-
dancing on speaking in tongues is kind of a generic. It's a. There's no.
Oh,
Anyway.
you've said your trash talk.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say that
For
I
his
don't.
number 3 record.
Be insinuated that I don't like dance music or something. I caught that. Anyway.
Welcome. I mean, what hasn't been said? So, I mean, it's a great record. It's a fantastic debut. Yeah, and Psycho Killer. Yeah, Psycho Killer. That's some good shit.
So you like it?
Christina Weymouth, that was her contribution to the song. She added the French.
Oh.
And it's not really about a killer. I don't like songs about killers.
It is. It's about a serial killer.
Yeah.
It was a joke, though. The whole song was just a joke. The band was like, "Wow, why are people like going apeshit over this song?" Well, now you guys have mentioned this one, but this one is my number 2. The other, the other record I said was a party. This is a better party. This is a fucking kick-ass party. This is, to me, serious funk all the way through, from start to finish. The song "Burning Down the House," they got that idea from a fans, I should say, screaming that phrase at a Parliament Funkadelic show. So that's where the title of that song came from.
Oh.
Slippery People is so fantastic. See, the title of the record, Speaking in Tongues. There's really a theme throughout the entire record because each of the songs are taking very pointed stabs at evangelicals and at the whole evangelical ministry. So that's the Slippery People. The Slippery People can be both the preachers or it can be the people, what's the matter with him? He's all right. I see his face. The Lord won't mind. And then the phrase "turn like a wheel," that's from Ezekiel. In fact, there are a couple lines in the song that come from parts of Ezekiel. So there's that double meaning going on, that it could be either the preachers or the congregants are being the slippery people because they're falling down and, convulsing, all over the floor, speaking in tongues. I Get Wild has, that bass line in I Get Wild is just, this album is a party. And, this is an album that my neighbors would hate me because I want to crank it up as loud as I can. Swamp is my favorite one. I just love that. When your hands get dirty, no one knows you at all. But again, you can relate this back to evangelicals and the crazy ministers and things. Moon Rocks is, to me, nonsensical, but it's beautiful in its nonsense. And in some interview, Burns said that lyrics don't always have to make sense. And in that song, Moon Rocks, they don't make a whole lot of sense, but it's a good song. Pull Up the Roots, again, is a little kind of a disordered song, but it's about disordered life. Just pull up your roots and move on. This must be the place. It's probably, it's a love song that David Byrne only he could write. This is very nearly my top album. It's a 5 Rainbow album to me. It is just absolutely brilliant. When it first came out, I was playing it over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, I just couldn't. I still can't get enough of it. It's just, yeah.
I hadn't played it all the way through until it's been a few years since I've sat down and played it all the way through. It's so damn good because it's not my go-to Talking Heads record. If I'm going to listen, well, anyway, but it's so damn good. I love it, absolutely love it, and it sounds great on vinyl too. And it's really good.
So is the wheel within a wheel? Is that the angel in the Bible that watches over Jesus and protects him?
Well, it comes from Ezekiel.
Yeah, that is the coolest thing in the Bible. That wheel, it's a wheel within a wheel, and the wheel is lined with eyeballs. Both wheels are lined. It's like a hoop within a hoop, and there's eyeballs all over the hoop.
Turn like a wheel inside a wheel.
I forget what it's called, but it's an angel that watches over it. It's a hoop
rhythm,
within a hoop.
when you think about it, it's church. It's almost like church music. A lot
We're
of those
going
songs.
to church.
Richard, what are you drinking tonight?
Rosé.
He's drunk on the Talking Heads.
Yeah, he's got some.
They're one of my favorite
He's got some
bands.
crack
The
cocaine.
Talking
One or
Heads
the
are
other.
Exciting.
one
No,
of
it's
my-
exciting. No, it's a great.
Wait till
band.
we get to Night Ranger. He'll really.
Oh, I'm looking forward to Night Ranger. I
Please,
can't.
we are not. Don't know.
Yes, and then Night Ranger and what's their heads?
Loverboy?
Damn it, I had it in my head. Oh, Loverboy.
Brittany
and
Fox?
I would rather do Loverboy than.
And turn up the
Linkin
radio.
Park?
Autograph.
Autograph?
Yeah, we're gonna do Autograph. Yeah, that's next.
I got something cool about Autograph. Not cool, but just more ridiculous. But anyways,
Oh, I love ridiculous. So
out
tell
of
us
place
about
on
it
this
later.
video.
Yeah.
They were sponsored by Papermate. I'll just say that.
Oh yeah.
Only band I ever heard of sponsored by Papermate, and you could send away. I found in the Autograph album a thing you could send off for a Papermate pen. And in their video that, because they're autographed, they show people sign, and the album's called Sign In Please. They show people signing in, and they got real close up on Papermate. The band was literally sponsored by Papermate.
They've been huffing white out
amazing.
probably.
And now, back to a band never sponsored by a pencil, Talking Heads.
No.
My number 2 is, God, I love this record. Remain in Light, The Talking Heads. This is absolutely fantastic. This is the second Brian Eno produced record. I love what Brian Eno did for this band. I think it's the 2 records he did with them are masterpieces. The Great Curve, Cross-Eyed and Painless is. I love that song. Absolutely love the song. Love it. Born Under Punches, great. Houses in Motion, Once in a Lifetime, the huge single. Everyone knows it. It's a classic. It's spectacular. Seen and Not Seen, I love. This is a great record. Absolutely wonderful record. I love how weird it gets. It's out there, but yet it's hard to describe this record. I really, really, really love this. And that Remain in Light.
I'm just following Mike again. My number 2 is called Remain in Light from 1980. Mine's always smaller again. Fits right in my hand. But yeah.
Mine does too.
And I could have gone back and forth with my number 1. And I'm sure we all figured out what all of our number 1 is going to be. And I could have gone back and forth with the number 1 and number 2. Unless Mike or Richard pulls out Naked as their number 1. But, I mean, this is where it gets more
I pulled out
into
Naked several times, but no.
World music.
Not for this video.
I don't usually like the term world music. Because it's like, there's America and then there's the rest of the world. But this really is world music because it's taking things from different parts of the world and combining them together. And that's, to me, what world music really is. It's not just music from Africa or music from, like, the Caribbean or, that's not world music. That's African music.
Right.
We're all part of the same world. But world music is when you take different things and combine them together. And that's really what this is. And this is the funky one. This is the one where it really is funk on the one and just all of these different things. It really opens really solidly with Born Under Punches, The Heat Goes On. As soon as that fires off, it just fills the whole room, and there's so much going on. You can listen to that song 5 times and pick out something different each time to listen to. And that's one of my favorite elements of songs, is when you can do something like there's so much going, and it all syncopates together, it synchronizes together, I should say. in syncopation. Cross-eyed and painless is great. It's David Byrne's frantic, like nervous vocal, paranoid vocal fitting in brilliantly with the music. Like I was saying with the first one, his vocals way out there, the music is just kind of plucking along. But here they find a way to make it all cohesive and fit together. The music is also got a lot of stuff going on that seems to be kind of frantic as well. And Cross-eyed and Painless is a great example of that. Of course, the huge Once in a Lifetime, once that comes on, it's it's kind of game over. This is definitely going to be in the top two.
Flowing underground.
Right, and then the whole which they remade that for the Down and Out in Beverly Hills soundtrack, and this version is much better. Yeah, that's on the soundtrack. It's a 1986 version or 85 version. Houses in Motion, the Overlord is a kind of a way to just kind of wind it down, and just the roller coaster's coming to an end. But yeah, this is taking elements of the first one. I'm not a big fan of the second one, but even some of that, and then and the third one this is the fourth album actually. This isn't the third. That's the fourth album.
Yeah, it's the fourth.
Yeah, so
1980.
Yeah, 1980, and just expanding on everything, and finally just peaking. As far as making things happen at once. And like I said, this could have been my number one. My number one could have been my number two. I kind of went back and forth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You could have made Flippy Floppy with them.
I could have made that my number 3 or 4, the Flippy Floppy
That's
album.
funny, Craig.
I try to be funny, it never works. Well, because I am such a follower and not a trendsetter. My number 2 is Remain in Light from 1980. I don't have one to show, so show it.
I'm afraid to find
you
out
guys
your
pretty
number
much
one,
said
bro.
everything I wanted to say. I mean, funky was a really good. It was very funky, and I loved all the different world elements of it, and I felt the hints of African, and I felt like, and that's what I think I enjoyed about it so much, is that I was on a journey, and each element in each song was taking me in a different place. The weird thing about Once in a Lifetime, I've never really cared for that song, so it's kind of like, it goes so well because it's just not a song of theirs I listen to, but listening to the album as a whole, it fit in perfectly. But that song has always kind of annoyed me, to be honest, but I enjoyed it in a different element this time as I was listening to everything together. I don't know. It's just, there's worse songs in the world, but yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed Seen and Not Seen. Definitely, the Brian Eno comment, you could definitely feel that presence on this record. Yeah. You guys pretty much said everything I had written down. So
I think everybody's going to have the same number 1. Unless there's a surprise.
There's
no. You guys,
there's a surprise
because this is my number 1.
Oh, so you didn't even have our number. You didn't even have the best album in your top 5.
I was wondering where
Interesting.
you were going. Yeah.
Well, I do have the best album in my top 5 right here. This is a bloody masterpiece.
Yeah, it is.
And Brian Eno certainly is a contributing factor, but Adrian Belew, to me, is what really makes this record. I don't think they could have done this record without Adrian Belew.
No.
The effects that he does with his guitar in the songs are just absolutely amazing, and it's to me the best thing about the record. It has, you talk about it having a funky feel. To me, it has more of a, and I had to look up this word to make sure I'm using it correctly. It has a sepulchral feel to it. It's dark and reflective. As I say, the guitar effects are just amazing. Side A is just brilliant. Born Under Punches, which was inspired by John Dean's Watergate testimony. And then Cross-eyed and Painless. It's just I play Speaking in Tongues a lot. This is another one that I play, a lot, especially when it came out, just over and over and over. The Great Curve is even better than Cross-eyed and Painless because Belew's guitar, the sounds that he gets out of it to go with that song is just amazing. Houses in Motion, we're getting we're getting David Byrne's commentary again about capitalists, keeping their power by just letting people think that they're happy, just that they can get what they want and they're happy. We don't want them revolting and having another bloody French Revolution. Seen and not seen, it's kind of spooky. This notion that somebody can change the way they appear because they believe other people are doing that. So just a really weird, twisted concept being presented in the song. Listening Wind is my favorite song. It is a song too. There's an interview with Byrne. He says, "I don't know if I could get away with performing that live anymore. I understand why America is not universally loved. That's been obvious to me for years and years, but it's not obvious to a lot of Americans. Their immediate reaction is they love us. They're just jealous. They just want McDonald's." And then you got Mojik sneaking through the village, planting the bomb, because of the Westerners who are coming to his country and living high on the hog, and the rest of his country and his people are literally dirt poor. The Overload, it was interesting. Found something where he said that they wanted to write a song that was something like Joy Division, but none of the band members knew anything about Joy Division. So they kind of had to go and read about them. And they came up with a song that kind of works. I like the line where he's talking about a gentle collapsing, how the entire world is falling apart around us, but it's doing it in a gentle collapsing. And so we don't really notice it. And we just go on living our lives while everything's falling apart around it.
You definitely notice it now.
Yeah.
And it's not gentle. It's pretty.
So, and this is what he was saying in 1980. All right. So we're talking 40 years ago.
Yeah.
More than 40 years ago. So, this is my number one Talking Heads album. It's just absolutely a masterpiece.
It's probably my number one, too, now that I've heard all of that. But I should have made my number one number two. Because I kept going, like I said, I kept going back. And I think that's actually my number one album.
It could have been
my number one is my number two.
I converted somebody.
Well,
your number one, Mike. I'm kind of interested here. What are you going to say?
I know.
God, I hope it's not Fear of Music.
Yeah,
it could be Fear of Music. This is a great pressing of it. Excuse me. This is a Spanish pressing. It's absolutely beautiful. It plays so good. It's really, really nice. I don't know where I got it, but again, Brian Eno, the first album that he did with him. I think it's, it can't be a coincidence that they're two best albums Brian Eno produced.
Didn't he do this one too?
Did he? I don't.
Yeah, Brian Eno produced.
Did he?
Several of their earlier albums.
Really?
But when you're all done talking about this record, I got an interesting story about it that I can.
I absolutely love this record. This is my favorite Talking Heads record. Remain in Light probably could on some days, but I absolutely love this. Heaven, Animals, electric guitar, drums or drugs, Isombria, Paper, Cities, Mind. I just all one word
opening,
all one word titles. This is my go-to Talking Heads record. This is what I play every time I'm in a Talking Heads mood. This is the one I go to, and that's how I kind of came with this is my number one. It easily could have been Ray of Light, Remain in Light. It definitely would never be Ray of Light. I can guarantee you that. It also could have been. Any of my top three, it could have been number one. But man, this is the one I go to on a regular basis. I love it, and basically for all the same reasons that I like Remain in Light too. It's that funkiness, that world beat, that influences from all over being just kind of pulled in, and just a perfect mesh of interesting, fun, funky, kind of dancey music, but Really, really good. I almost, when we first started doing our reviews, whatever, about a year ago, this was almost one of my albums that I picked for a Guncle review. And yeah, it's so damn good.
Yeah, so my number two, because I guess now Remain in Light is my number one. After thinking about it more, because I kept going back and forth, is I don't have it. Isn't that ridiculous? I don't have Fear of Music. I have, Little Creatures and, True Stories and whatever, but I don't have Fear of Music. E Zimbra, again, a great way to set things off. But I do actually, now that I think about it, I do think that Born Under Punches is a better opener. But this has a lot. I think this one is more consistent than
Yeah.
Remain in Light. Side two things kind of, but this is all the way through. I mean, obviously, Remain in Light, I would probably put, it's at number 2 or number 1, so obviously it's great to me. But this one is just as good. I mean, they're really equal. It's really a tie for first place. Air is just I think I picked this because of the song Air. Because it's not a single, it's not a hit, it's not a song a lot of people talk about, but I just absolutely love that song and the whole, and him just, you haven't experienced Air if you don't think, who hasn't experienced Air? It's just more of this like sort of paranoid, frantic, nervous vocal, and the lyrics really match that. Cities is the same way, it's almost like Don't Worry About the Government wanting to move to a bit, the songs on the earlier albums where he's planning out his whole life and I'm in a big city now and what will I do, that type of thing. Of course, Life During Wartime, where he literally is, in a situation of paranoia that anybody can relate to if they would be in that situation. Anybody would be freaking out or whatever if they were, a spy that has to keep changing their identity and, that type of thing. And, obviously the big
many times now, I don't even know what I look like.
Right. Yeah. And, I think a lot of people would prefer the Stop Making Sense version of that. That's really the hit version. But on here, it's great as well. Heaven is a place where nothing really happens. That's the only other person besides myself that has ever said that about heaven. Everybody talks about they can't wait to go to heaven so they can see Grandma and Grandpa again. Well, I'm going to walk with Grandpa. And my response to that has always been, what is heaven like on day 4,572,312? What's heaven like then? And people don't have an answer for that because, you're in heaven apparently forever after that. I'm not going to be after that little statement, but some people will be. And what's it going to be like after you've been there for 2 million years? And you're, okay, I'm a cloud. It was wonderful.
I wish he would have made that song more country.
Yeah. It's kind of the lyrics make that song for me. Electric guitar, and the only guitar you hear is this just repeating.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. And anybody that has a song called Drugs
that's
on their album in 1979 with that boop, boop, like it's almost like a drip going into your arm or something. But that's one of the first things before I even had heard Burning Down the House or whatever, I'd heard of Talking Heads because they seemed to be, like somebody would bring up Barry Manilow on sitcoms as a joke. It was an insult. Oh, I'm not going out with her. She just listens to Barry Manilow. It was Barry Manilow was the go-to. It seemed like in a few different shows, Talking Heads was the go-to to say that somebody was weird. I distinctly remember Talking Heads being mentioned in the Facts of Life. And I remember going to Camelot Music was the place when I was. This was
remember that chain.
This was probably 81. This was before Burning Down the House was out. And it was probably the first time I was there, and I remember seeing a Talking, and like, oh, this is the band this is that weird band that keeps getting brought up in movies and whatever. And I looked, and this was the tape. It had to be this one because it had a song just called Drugs, and I just thought, wow, there's a song that's just called Drugs. And one day I'll have that song. And so that's that's probably my earliest memory with Talking Heads is just looking at the back of a tape and seeing a song called Drugs. But either this one or Remain in Light. Either one, it's a tie really for first place. Which Mike and I have had the same. If you didn't have Stop Making Sense, what would have been your number 5?
Probably the second album.
Oh, okay. So we wouldn't have had the same top five. We
Yeah, I
had the
just
same top four, like in order.
we did. Yeah.
Wow.
Almost. Well,
Cheers.
my five was 77.
Yeah.
That was your four, but almost. Our top three was the same. Anyway, that's my number one.
It's a great band. It's a great
You know,
band.
Craig.
Well, my number one is not that. I'm not following the trend. So my number
Ooh.
one is Speaking in Tongues. This is perfection to me.
Yeah.
There's not a moment I don't love of this record. And I love Flippy Floppy, and I love to make Flippy Floppy with my Flippy Floppies on and jaunt about my living room making Flippy Floppy. It's enjoyable. Girlfriend is Better is just so freaking, I love it so much. And of course, the Stop Making Sense line is in that. Swamp is brilliant. I love Pull Up the Roots. This Must Be the Place might be my favorite Talking Head song. So I just adore this record. And yeah, this is the only one I've owned for really. Only got 77 like a year or two ago. I've had this for like 15 years. So
That was my first one too on cassette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the only one I had for a long time until I
That
got.
was my first. That's the first one I bought too. Either that or Stop Making Sense.
Yeah, that was my first one. The second one was True Stories when it was new.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
Can I make a
You guys
suggestion
mentioned
too?
the fear of music. An interesting thing about that, at least to me, it was interesting. David Byrne was like on the verge of really on the verge of a nervous breakdown because of the tours that the band was doing. And he was feeling like he was about to lose his shit. And so I think Brian Eno probably had a little bit to do with this, but he really focused on himself. This is a very personal album. The songs are really about his own internal demons that he was dealing with. And so he used fear of music to sort of purge himself of the demons that he was feeling at that time. So it's it didn't make my top five. It was close. But yeah, it's because there are a couple songs that I'm kind of diffident about, but to find out how personal of an effort it was for him to put this album together, and when you think about it, right after that, what they did following that, because Fear of Music is their third album,
Right.
Right. So right after that, you get Remain in Light, and you start getting these other ones, and then they did that which I don't have. I need to get the name of the band is Talking Heads. That live album.
Yeah.
That comes between. That's 82, right? I think
That's
comes between.
before. Yeah. It's 82.
Speaking or Stop Making Sense is 84, isn't it? I think the name of the band is Talking Heads is like 82 or 81.
Yeah.
It is 82. Yeah,
Because it's before. It doesn't have Burning Down the House. It's before.
You know what? I
Speaking in
don't. I
Tongues.
don't have that either. I don't either.
I've never heard it.
And I understand it's even better live album than Stop Making Sense. But anyway, yeah, it was interesting to find that out about the fear of music, how deeply personal it was, and cathartic for David Byrne to put that album together.
I think
like we were
David
talking about
Byrne-
listening to all these too. I mean, if somebody were to ask me last week or 15 years before that what my favorite Talking Heads album was, I would have said Speaking in Tongues. I just assumed that would be it. But when I listened to them all like this and was able to like listen to one after the other and go back and do it all again and then all again omit kind of I mean, I knew Naked wasn't going to make it, so that one dropped off. But I listened to most of them like 3 times, and I started like really, this one is more interesting here. I like this one. This is more consistent, but yeah, Burning Down the House is always going to be my favorite, I think, song. And then This Must Be the Place is great. But I think that if you're just getting into the Talking Heads, like I was saying though, I mean, start with the hits. This is great. It's Sand in the Vaseline double double CD. It would
Yeah.
probably be a triple album. I mean, because it's 2 full CDs. But this is a
Yeah.
great introduction if you're not, if you don't want to get an album and deal with a bunch of album tracks. And it's like I said, every album has an incredible single on it, with the exception of the more songs about buildings and food. Every album has an incredible single, and they're all on here. And this has a weird Love for Sale though, weird version of that, but and it has the live, the spy one. What's it called? Live During Wartime. So it has all the best versions except for Love
See,
for
that's
Sale.
what always bugged me about the Fear of Music is how Life During Wartime got truncated, and to me it was like Burns being on the spectrum and him wanting to put certain. To me, I don't know anything about this, but I feel like he just had to have certain songs on that record, so he cuts the song short so that he can fit the other songs on there. And to me, there's a couple songs on that record that they could have just been not put on it at all, and then a fuller version of Life During Wartime.
Oh, I didn't realize that was edited. That's crazy. I wonder if you can get the full version somewhere.
No, it's on the Fear of Music. It's like a 3-minute song. The full length version is what you get on Stop Making Sense.
Oh, so they just didn't make it longer live then? That's an actual. That's the
Well, you
way it's
can hear
supposed to
how
be.
it fades out. There's more to the song, but you can hear how it fades out because
Yeah.
it fades out while he's still singing.
Yeah, I noticed.
I think Brian Eno just brings out the best in David Byrne, even
Except
like
for when he's
solo.
doing this on the control board and fading out songs while David Byrne.
Of course. But even David Byrne's solo stuff that he's done with Eno is just beautiful. I absolutely love it. I'm just going to mention this too. Is if you guys have never heard this, anyone out there, this is the David Byrne St. Vincent album. It's called "Love This Giant." If you guys, if you like either one of these artists, this is a must-own. If you like them both, it's absolutely wonderful.
It's really
And if you
good.
like speaking
So
in tongues
damn
because of the dance, the disco dancing, then you have to have the Tom Tom Club.
Absolutely,
that should be your next
Oh yeah.
the debut.
Yeah.
I don't have
That's
no
basically
Tom
what
Tom.
that is. It's the Tom Tom
Yeah.
Club with David Byrne.
I also highly recommend this book, Remain in Love, Chris Franz and Tina Weymouth. They're married. A lot of people didn't know that. This came out a couple of years ago, and really, really good book. I mean, not a spectacular read, but really good insight from their point of view of the band, not David Byrne's. We always seem to hear David Byrne's point of view of how things went down. But this is a good read. I highly recommend this.
There's also the Heads, No Talking, Just Head, if you want to hear the Talking Heads without David Byrne.
Yeah.
And I saw that
saw them.
concert, but I've
Yeah.
I've mentioned it too
With
many times. So
Janet Napolitano and
yeah, it's got a lot of Michael Hutchins is on there.
Yeah.
I think
That's a great album. It's hard to find too. It's also
it's
very
only on
expensive.
CD.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the CD.
Yeah.
Kind of
Oh,
looks
yeah.
like True Stories. It's got the same
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
red and white
That's
and black.
great. It's really good.
It's been so long. Who else is on that? I know Michael
Um,
Hutchins. I know Johnette. Is Chrissy Hines on there? Isn't she?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Debbie Harry, Gordon Gano from
yeah.
Violent
Violent
Femmes,
Femmes.
Andy Partridge is on here, Gavin
Really?
Friday, Richard Hell. Wow,
Oh no.
Really,
need to listen to this again sometime.
it's
I remember
really
not
good.
really caring for it, but I think I listened to it twice,
I don't know.
and it wasn't very well received anyway. So maybe I should
No,
check that
it
out
wasn't.
again.
The show was really good. It was all Johnette singing all the songs. So
Yeah. God, I'm so jealous you saw that.
so good.
I love her.
So
What next?
Next, we're going to review the tops and bottoms of 1988, and wow, that was not a good year. So I think we're going to have more fun with the bottoms than the tops. Yikes. And I can't even use the excuse that I was in the industry and jaded because I was 15 years old for most of that year, and the songs should have been promoted right for me and all of us, really. I mean, and wow, no. Bloated and just a lot of hair.
Okay, save it.
So won't you
Okay,
please join us for
so-
that? It'll be fun.
Yes, be sure to
5
tune in.
pages of stuff I have to.
It's gonna be a
Tune
good
down.
episode.
Yeah. Well, I've been told I'm more entertaining negative than I am positive.
Well,
So,
kind
No,
of, but I like
true.
positive fifth end.
yeah. I am Robert Fitton. We are the Vinyl Community Guncles. I am Robert Fitton along with...
Richard here at Kelvin Wazoo.
Craig at my vinyl plethora. It's nice.
And Mike at Hub Tunes.
Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you'll see us again next time.
Hopefully.